And welcome to Libertarian Counterpoint. I am your host, James Just, and with me today is author extraordinaire, Mr. John Cameron.
Hello, James.
John, you know, last week, or maybe a couple weeks ago at this point, we talked about Eric Snowden and Julian Assange, about how, you know, whistleblowers, the difference between, say, a leaker and a whistleblower. Mm-hmm. And so this is kind of an interesting counterbalance to that. An ex-IRS contractor was sentenced to 5 years in prison for leaking Trump's tax records. Now, what's the difference between, say, leaking Trump's tax records and Eric Snowden and Julian Assange, you know, leaking government secrets, so to speak?
Is that a real question you want to?
It's not. I know the answer, John, but I think our listeners might want to.
Well, I think the motivations were completely different. The guy, I think it's a guy, the IRS contractor. He said he did it because he thought he was doing a public service. But I'm a little suspicious of that because he said, I did this on my own. I did this on my own. Nobody else was connected with it. I did it on my own. And I think his paying lip service to, he took the job in order to get access to people's tax returns. What he revealed, basically, was private information, as did Snowden and all the rest of that. But revealing it was done, in my mind, no matter what the man says, for completely political circumstances, not to do justice, not to do anything, but just to rile people up and give the lefties some fodder to go after rich people because they're rich. Whereas in Snowden's case, in Assange's case, what they leaked were people breaking the law and violating the constitutional rights of literally millions of Americans. So they were revealing other people's crimes, where what this IRS contractor was revealing was what people paid in taxes and how much money they made. And so I wish they could have, actually, and I wish they would have, because this has gone on, especially with Trump, who had spies. It's Biden, Trump, whop. That makes the sound of, you know. He's not even a Republican, you know. He's a statist. So anyway, did I give you an answer?
Yeah, the difference is that the Snowden and Assange exposed illegal activities, right? Vastly illegal activities, unconstitutional activities being perpetuated by the government.
They should get the Medal of Freedom, Medal of Honor. They should draft them in the military and give them a Medal of Honor.
Yes, and this guy didn't expose any crime. No. It was just trying to embarrass another person. He actually, you know,
many
dug
other
out
people, not just one. And he specifically got the job to do that. No, if he wanted to go in and release Biden's bank records showing all those wire transfers, again, illegal activity, I'd be fine with that. And again, it sounds like I'm defending Trump. I'm not. The man's an idiot. But he's basically, if anybody doesn't look at what's going on with him and all these court cases as political targeting, they're stupid.
Yeah, it's not about Trump. You know, if you can do this to Trump, then Trump can, or the next person can do it to you, right? You're setting a precedent. And once you set these kind of precedents, then that's the real danger. And we're going to talk about precedents. We're going to move on quickly. Trying to translate Biden's border policy. He gave a speech yesterday, and as normal when Biden gives a speech, about 3 minutes in, he kind of goes off the rails. But essentially, he was talking out of both sides of his mouth.
You managed to listen to him for 3 minutes?
Well, I don't want to give any secrets here, John. You listen to him in 1 minute chunks, right? Yeah. And that's all you can take. But he's trying to have it both ways on this border, right? He's trying to at one time say it's not a crisis, it's not a crisis, but at the same time, these leftist governors, you know, are acknowledging it is a crisis.
The people that basically pay him.
Yeah.
with their votes,
Yeah, and so there's this whole kind of, they want it both ways. The Democrats especially want it both ways. Biden doesn't really want to address it because at the moment he gets the best of both worlds, right? If this, if the left likes immigration, regardless of the consequences or not, the right is kind of anti-immigration. So he still gets to point at the right as racists and whatnot. But at the same time, he still wants the benefit of being kind to, to the immigrants. So he's talking out of both sides of his mouth. He's not representing anybody but the progressive left.
Yeah,
at this point.
And if well, I think that DeSantis, is that his name, the Florida governor, was brilliant in this. I think it's a pure and simple plan to just overwhelm Texas, and I'm wondering why California is not getting overwhelmed.
Well, because we have a fence.
Yeah.
We have a wall that's between us and Mexico. It doesn't stop people from coming through, but it slows them down.
No, but I'm just, so why can we have a wall but Texas can't?
Yeah.
I'll tell you why. Because Texas votes Republican.
Well, and ours was up first.
Yeah.
Well, we managed to get ours
before
in.
they made it legal. And there's an awful lot of people that cross the border in California.
Yes, but it's not the 110,000 a month or whatever it is
It's
they're
way
getting
more
down
than
in
that.
Texas.
It's like, I think it hit almost 1 million one month. I mean, well, no, it couldn't have been a couple 100,000, yeah. But the makeup of the people that are coming across the border now is from Mexico. I mean, there's a lot of Chinese people coming through. But, there's an easy fix. I think our friend Mr. Fields is going to talk about that.
Yeah, well,
so I don't want to step all over his. Oh, it's coming up next.
It's coming up next. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like almost like someone planned this particular show.
Almost like you planned it. Good job. Yeah. So, that as long as the progressive cities weren't bothered by it, it wasn't a problem.
Yeah.
But when DeSantis started shipping busloads of people to New York, so these sanctuaries, and Chicago, so these so-called sanctuary cities could deal with the issue, then it became a problem, because now all of a sudden they're discovering that along with the wonderful numbers of good people that are coming across the border, there's also bad people coming across, and some of those bad people commit crime, and they overwhelm the hotel rooms they have set up for the homeless, they overwhelm emergency services and all the rest of that. And
and
I think
10,000 to a city like New York, while you're getting 100,000, 200,000
in Austin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's a problem in New York, but somehow it's supposed to be fine if it's down in Texas. Texas can handle it.
Texas can handle it. Texas, those little towns in Texas are literally they have more people coming across the border on a daily basis than the population of some of the towns that they come through, some of the cities they go through. But it's completely okay.
Yeah. And we want to be clear. We are relatively open borders, but there is something different about this, and it's whether it's the what's the word I'm looking for, John? The incentives that the sanctuary cities have created.
Flat out the incentives. I mean, we have, what do we have? Before California got a $17 billion grant from the federal government for some reason. Oh wait, because it delivers the White House to them. We had a $68 billion budget deficit. I mean, it's much lower now because they dipped into their reserve fund. But we are providing health care and services to undocumented aliens in this country. Yet people who are citizens here, if they were to apply for the same stuff with the same lack of income, they would be denied. So I'm probably with what I'm guessing I'm on the same track as Richard. We almost always are, except for in our choice of liquor. I don't care who comes here. My relatives did not face any kind of immigration policy at all because they came here so long ago. And this country is built on the back of immigrants, and immigrants always in every study are a net plus to the economy. And I'm talking too much. I see you looking at me.
No, you're all good. You're all good. Immigrants they're a net plus over time, right? But when you get too many at once, it's actually a cultural issue. It's not an economic issue. It's really the cultural friction that it creates is the actual problem that nobody even wants to talk about, and you can't solve it if you're not willing to talk about it.
Yeah.
But let's see what Richard has to say about this immigration.
This is Mr. Fields from
Mr. Fields from the Fields on immigration. We'll see what you got to say today.
Mr. Fields with reporters from the fields. Libertarians have long been advocates of freedom of immigration, open borders, The underlying principle is that anyone should be able to live wherever in the world they want to, as long as they are able to pay the rent or buy their dwelling and otherwise provide for themselves economically. The key phrase follows "as long as." No one has the right to live wherever they want at someone else's expense. Unfortunately, open immigration, as popularly understood, has come to mean that anyone can immigrate to the United States and immediately get free public education for their children, free health care, and in many cases, free housing and other forms of welfare, along with an accelerated path to citizenship and the right to vote.
His phone.
This kind of so-called open immigration has come to be tacitly supported by the Democratic Party. Immigrants who come to this country motivated at least in part by the lure of free stuff are likely to vote for the party that promises the most free stuff. That's the Democratic Party. Republicans, understandably, don't think much of this kind of open immigration. But Republicans don't advocate reform of immigration laws in a way that would discourage immigrants motivated by free stuff. Instead, they make nativist, sometimes racist arguments that immigrants will unfairly compete for a limited supply of jobs. This is the wrong argument on multiple levels. First, there is never a fixed supply of jobs. More immigrants means more consumers, which means more jobs. Second, appeals to racism and nativism speak to the worst aspects of human nature. That naturally brings out the worst in human nature and paves the way for charlatans like the one called Donald J. Trump. Third, legal immigration is nigh well impossible with today's labyrinthine immigration laws. A study by Cato shows that a mere 1% of those attempting to immigrate legally are successful, and then only after many years of waiting in most cases. It's time for a libertarian reform of immigration policy. Make all immigration painless and easy. Give permanent resident status to pretty much anyone. Make citizenship a bit more difficult, requiring English literacy and a modicum of understanding of how a democratic republic is supposed to work, but make it crystal clear that there will be no welfare or public subsidies of any kind for immigrants. Ideally, that would be accompanied by elimination of all those welfare benefits for native-born Americans as well. But that requires another argument for another day. This kind of immigration reform would ensure that the only immigrants we would get would be the kind who are willing to take advantage of the freedoms of America and to work hard to better themselves and their families. Sort of like the policy we had from colonial times until the early part of the 20th century, when welfare was private and when immigration was totally unlimited, when nearly all immigrants to America came here to escape despotism in their homelands and to better themselves in the land of the free. By definition, immigrants are what made this country great. And to borrow a phrase, immigration, done correctly, can help make this country great again. That's this week's Report from the Fields. I'm Richard Fields. See you again next week.
Well spoken, Mr. Fields. So I was in agreement with him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We kind of know that we've had enough discussions on immigration around here that everybody kind of knows our particular views on this. But it's the incentives that are actually create the problem. It's not the immigration that's the problem, it's the incentives that's the problem. And because it's not just that you're incentivizing people here to come here, you're distorting the market when they are here. Right? You're not allowing them to work, but you're giving them services. Or at least you're not allowing them to work over the table. They can work under the table, but they're not allowing them to work over the table. And while at the same time you're providing services, which is like completely backwards. It's just completely backwards.
Oh, and there's another distortion. I know we want to move on to other subjects, but the H-1B visas.
Yeah.
You know, these tech companies lobby long and hard for that so they can get software engineers in dirt cheap. And what that does is it prevents universities and schools in the U.S. from producing software engineers at the level they should. and they come in here on the H-1B visa, and then they get citizenship, and then their families come. And so why shouldn't other people have the same thing? Well, like farm labor, you know, why isn't farm labor an entrance into citizenship in this country?
Plumbers,
if we need to bring people in, all the rest of that. Yeah. So it's, I talked to an immigration lawyer this morning and asked her how hard it was, and she said, you know, it takes a lot of people 15, 20 years, if they get in at all, you know, unless they have a relative here. So.
Yeah, knowing how to work the system. And talking about knowing how to work the system, we got a story here that we've covered before, but we've kind of given you an update. The FBI seizures from those gun safe deposit boxes down in Southern California. We've covered this before. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals has the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals has actually
said, not circus. It's normally a circus, but this time it's a circuit.
We can't help it. I call it a circus, even when they do something I agree with.
I like that. I'll start doing that myself.
But it's the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals has actually said that the FBI seizing those boxes was a violation of the U.S. Constitution. So my question is, when are these people going to be held accountable for continually violating the U.S. Constitution? When is an FBI agent going to have something, $100 fine? You know, I pay $60 a fine if I park too long outside the building here, right? If during the wrong time of day. So why can't they pay at least that? You know, if I have to pay a parking ticket, why can't they pay some kind of ticket every time they violate the Constitution?
Short answer, never. It's never going to happen. Longer answer, there's more and more people talking about the FBI is now even more obviously a rogue agency than it was under J. Edgar Hoover. The FBI was at the heart of the Steele document to try to basically prevent Trump from getting elected. That's election interference. The FBI is, well, we'll talk about the FBI in further detail last time. It is so dirty now. I had an attorney, when I asked him a question why somebody's getting published for basically making up stories about Russian election interference and funneling it through to try to prevent an election from taking place in the way it should have taken place. I said, why are there no consequences? And he said, oh, he's a made man. He was talking about an FBI agent, and this is a seasoned attorney that's worked as an attorney for like 30 years, as if he's a member of the mafia. And hopefully I won't go home and find a horse's head in my bed, but you know, these people they're out of control, and somebody needs to close the agency down and start over, or else put some of those people in prison. A couple hundred of them in prison, because I'm sure a couple hundred of them have done things that you and I would go to prison for, would be a start.
All you have to do is watch our shows, and we've kind of
we haven't named them, but we've detailed
their issues long and continually.
Now, should we talk about what actually happened or not? Or we just want
no, because we've already discussed on the show about what's actually happened. And we want to move on. Feds will try Backpage co-founder Michael Lacey for a third time. So they've got him on. They've got him on. What, one charge? It was one charge they actually got a conviction on.
One charge about 100.
Yeah, one charge they got a conviction on. One charge they got acquitted on, and the rest was like 86 charges were hung jury. Yeah. This is the second time this has happened.
Yeah. So basically, they're just going to keep trying him until they get the outcome they want, or he does what his partner did, commit suicide. And basically, what they did, if nobody's watched the show, anybody's watched the show knows this, they had Backpage. Yeah. And what happened on Backpage was, it was kind of an extension of alt weeklies, because alt weeklies were dying, so they were looking to build a website to compete with, I think, Craigslist, basically, because all their business was going to Craigslist. That's what killed newspapers. And so people, I call them courtesans, people who provided a personal service of a very close kind. Would advertise on there, and so the lunatic that is a vice president of the United States was instrumental in going after him, and all they did when they did this was bring pimps back into prostitution, because Backpage took pimps out of it, and so they made it even worse, not better. And now they're going after the person that maintained a website where these people advertised to people. Anyway,
and how many resources are they wasting that could be used, housing illegal immigrants or housing the homeless or taking care of our veterans, that they're actually spending on this, making this trial for a third time?
Repeatedly. And how many courtesans have ended up in graveyards and emergency rooms because they're pimps who are now back in the equation, which they weren't when this was going on. I don't know if you ever remember. Anyway, so maybe the pimps lobbied hard. Who knows?
Okay,
but,
who knows?
I'm guessing it's a couple thousand lives this has cost.
At least. If how many women have now, who would have had a economic opportunity to kind of move their way out of something, and now stuck because they can't keep all the money themselves.
Or even a big part of it.
Yeah.
Or sometimes none of it. Yeah.
So there was a column, a commentary column out in the LA Times, of all places.
Glad you sent me this. This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous.
Was, if you want to leave, fine, right? He's talking to California residents who are leaving. If you want to leave, fine, but don't insult Californians on California on the way out. Okay, well, fine. We're not leaving. I'm still here, and I will insult California while I'm still here. It's a growing hellhole, and if you can't even talk about it amongst ourselves, if you can't acknowledge that people are leaving and they're going to tell you why they're on their way out, we're leaving because the crime, because the politics is out of control, because it's too expensive, all the various reasons people are leaving. If they can't tell you that, or you're going to stick your head in the sand, because how are you supposed to fix any problems?
Well, the person that wrote this article in the LA Times was talking from the intellectuals are so removed from the reality that they don't understand the reality. They're drinking the Kool-Aid. I mean, they have no idea what normal people face on an everyday basis in California. And the person was talking about progressivism and the environment, and I like the environment. I live by the river. I don't want them bulldozing it. Vote against, folks. But it was just such a one-sided view of the state of California by the person, as if they've never left their house and only listened to NPR, basically.
An hour, to kind of backpedal, to add on to this, about an hour before we came on and we started to record this show, so this is last week, I got a clip of Gavin Newsom at a Target. He watches some guy steal stuff and walk out the door, and he gets mad at the cashier for not trying to stop him. He gets mad at the cashier and the manager for allowing the person, the shoplifter, to walk out.
I saw it, but I didn't read it. So he actually became upset. Doesn't he know that they're not allowed to stop them, and that was a law that he promoted? Yeah,
and the cashier is pointing out, well, we can't because of the governor. And he's saying, well, no, you can't. That's not what happened. Yeah. So he's trying to deny reality. Not only that, is he in such blind spot that he doesn't know this is going on all day, every day, in cities and stores around the state.
In his hometown, that didn't he guarantee that he would end homelessness in San Francisco in 2 years?
No, 10 years.
When he was mayor?
But now it's been 20.
Yeah.
Right?
Did he say 10 years? I thought he said 2 years.
Or 5 years. Whatever it is. It's been like twice as long as he claimed.
Whatever it was is a big lie.
Yeah.
And now, it's basically like, no, I'll get off on homelessness and I'll never come back. But no, there was another story in the paper, which I in one of the newspapers, which I would have loved to have seen. Oh, I was watching an English show, and an American actress was talking about being in the middle of what she thought was an active shooter event, and running into the kitchen to grab knives, because it was a Japanese restaurant, sushi restaurant. They got sharp knives, and a guy ran in and said, "Oh, I'm a Marine. It's okay." Well, it turns out that the people who did a smash and grab in a Westfield Galleria, not the one up here, but I think it was in L.A., got caught. Why? Because the jewelry store person hired an armed security guard, and they chased him down. And the people who were on the English panel show didn't understand that smash and grabs happen in full daytime in malls all over this country in America. They are clueless. If stuff like that happened in England, they would bring in the paratroopers and station them on the corners. I mean, it's just the difference between our attitude toward theft and the rest of the world is insane.
All right, so we've got about 2 minutes left, John. You want to go to the lockdown myths, or you want to go to the government employees want to fast for Gaza?
I think we can do them both. Let's go to, I hope that the U.S. government employees plan to fast and that they fast themselves to death and that we
That's a little
never
extreme.
replace, I'm sorry here, folks. If you were in support of people that did the things to babies that they did, and somehow that's a good thing, then you got a real problem. Do I like the fact that there's a religious state called Israel? No, but they've been there longer than the Palestinians. But I think that would be a good way to cut down on some overhead in the federal government. Just fast until you die and don't fill the position. Now, when the lockdown myths are crumbling, we're talking about...
these aren't myths to us.
From, if you watch this show from day one when we had to work remotely because we couldn't even come in here,
Yeah.
when people were masked outside and children were denied an education,
Yeah.
every single thing that we talked about when we were called conspiracy theorists has been proven.
I know.
In 2 minutes we did both of them.
It's astounding how right we were. You know, even you go back and you look, and we were just saying, you know, maybe we should slow down. Maybe we should kind of learn some things. Maybe we shouldn't, you know, maybe we should focus on, you know, basic human rights before we kind of jump into this authoritarian response to this. No, everybody jumped in and we ended up being right. John, I want to thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you very much for allowing me on the show again.
Yeah.
I don't know when you're going to wake up and decide not to do that.
Thank everybody in there for working hard tonight. Thank you for watching. Please remember to love everybody and have a good night.
I was a little harsh about the government employees.
Yeah, you know, sometimes they can